Oh, hi, it's Bruiser from Bruiser's Backyard, and in today's episode, we're gonna keep it classy like Freddie Blassie. I'm talking about limitless, professional-looking titles. Things you didn't think were possible unless you're using Final Cut Pro. From very easy, simple, smooth titles to animated titles that'll take your videos to the next level. Whether you're doing a YouTube video or you're just trying to spice up those family videos on iMovie. I'm gonna show you how to do it with just 3 simple pieces of software you probably already have on your Apple computer: iMovie, Keynote, and Preview. So let's get to the build.
The software I'm going to be using for this build is Keynote 8.3, iMovie 10.1.10, and Preview 10.0. Let's start off by opening Keynote. If the Choose dialog box does not open, you may have to select File, then New. Once you get to the Choose theme, you want to go from standard to widescreen. This will be consistent with your YouTube videos. Go to the Zoom drop-down box, and I'm going to choose a percentage that will allow me to see the entire slide at the same time. Then in the Inspector sidebar, I'm going to go to Choose Master and select Blank. Then again in the Format Inspector, I'm going to choose a background color. I'm going to choose green because it will go with my green screen feature of the iMovie. From the button bar, I select Text. Once the text is on the screen, I can start editing by using the inspector window on the right-hand side for the font. I could change font colors, styles. In this case, I'm going to move it to the lower right-hand side of my screen because that's where I want my title to be. You can move it anywhere on your display, and that's where it will show up on your screen when you go to display it on iMovie. You could choose any of the fonts preloaded on Keynote, which will be a much larger selection than you would get on iMovie. So choose your color, size, font, all the normal word processing features that you would have on Keynote you can use for your title here. You could change the words, readjust the text box, position it anywhere in the screen that you want it to show up on your final product. As a little cutaway here, you could also go to any website that has free fonts, go through the thousands of options that they provide. You could download it and install it into your font library. You may have to restart your Keynote before you can actually use it. I give you one more option for creating great logos and titles, and that is something called flamingtext.com, where you can create lots of different variations of thousands of different fonts. The difference between this option and the last option I gave you is that this will create a JPEG file, which you will not be able to edit once you create it. You have to go back to the website to edit it. Whereas if you have the fonts already loaded in your font library, you will be able to edit it at any time on Keynote. So here you'll see I chose my font style, and then I put in my Bruiser's Backyard, and it's generating the logo for me. I can have lots of different features here, colors and the shadow and the size and everything along the way. As for the background, I will choose transparent, and that'll just allow me to skip a step when I drop the picture into Keynote. I won't have to do the instant alpha. When I'm done editing, I could just hit next and hit download. It'll download to my downloads folder. I can open it from there, or I can just simply drag it in from my downloads folder directly into my Keynote project and position and resize. Keynote also provides a couple little nice options here that make things very simple. For instance, to copy and paste an image from the internet, a lot of times you get this white background here. So if I wanted to use this as part of my logo, I can go up to Format button and then go to the Inspector Image panel and use the Instant Alpha. A little click and drag over top of the white area, and it takes away the entire background. Also do a lot of quick arrange options, such as send to back, send to front, and also flipping horizontally or vertically. Now it's time to bring it in and out of your screen. So going over to my inspector window here, I'm going to go to the animate feature of the inspector, and I'm going to add an effect on the build in. Choose any effect that Keynote has preloaded, which will again be far more options than you'll see on the iMovie schedule. Then you can test it and see how it comes in and out of your screen using the preview button on the inspector side panel. So that's how it's going to come into the screen, and now I'm going to go to the build out and add another effect. Could be the same, could be anything different. Again, testing it out using the preview button. I can also use the play button to view it in full screen to see how it comes in and out of the screen. I may have to use my mouse or spacebar to show the builds. I could even use some of the fancier features of Keynote, such as the action, but before I use the action I have to take away my build in and build out, and I'll just stick with the action of movement. Down here you'll see that it's going to move my Bruiser's backyard from the left to the right. But I can adjust this anywhere on the screen, and I can make these adjustments and then hit preview each time to see just how it will look. So in this case the movement will take place, and then I will use a dissolve to disappear. So I'll go to my build out and choose dissolve, so it'll drop in from the top of the screen and then dissolve out. Now I'm anxious to see what it will look like when it's dropped into iMovie. So I go up to the Keynote menu, I go to export, and I'm going to export as a movie. On the export your presentation dialog box, I'm going to select 0 seconds for after each slide and 0 seconds to the next build, and then choose 1080p, and this will give a quick and smooth animation to my text. Hit next and save it as anything I want. I can preview it from the Finder window by selecting the file and hitting the spacebar. Now let's head over to iMovie and watch it dance. So I go ahead and I grab a hold of that movie that I created in Keynote and I drag it over top of a video clip in iMovie. By positioning it above the clip, I get to this cutaway menu and I could choose the green screen option, which will take away the entire green background that I put on Keynote and just display the graphics. I'll talk you through how I did that previous animation with the fish going over top of the hook. Keynote's builds and actions are great. However, I can make my animation completely open-ended by doing this technique right here. I'm first going to take away all my builds and actions, and then I'm going to make an animation, whereas each slide of my Keynote presentation becomes a new frame of my animation. So I'll start off with my Bruiser's Backyard logo above the scene, and it will drop in. I'll create a new slide using the duplicate Command D button, and then I will move the Bruiser's Backyard. As you can see here, I duplicated the Bruiser's Backyard as well so that I have one that stays at the top, and I can see exactly that my Bruiser's Backyard is dropping straight down because of the auto alignment feature of Keynote. I move the words, I click on the slide panel, and then I duplicate and move the words again, duplicate, move the words again, and I can test my action by going up to the number 1 slide again and hitting the down arrow, and I can see how the words will drop into place. I can make these words, clip art, or animations move anywhere on my screen. So in this scenario, I want to wiggle my Bruiser's Backyard text back and forth. I'm going to use the rotate feature in the inspector side panel, and then I'm going to continue animating my slide, rotating it from left to right, right to left. And then you can see how the Bruiser's Backyard text drops in from the top of the screen and wiggles back and forth. Now I do this because it's going to be bait for a fish to come by and eat. So I'm also going to add a piece of clip art for a fishing hook. If I can find a piece of clip art that works, I'll use the Google Images transparency background to find a fishing hook that doesn't have a background on it. However, I can also find one that has a background and use the instant alpha. Of course, in Google Images, I want to click on the thumbnail to get the largest image possible and then drag that into my Keynote presentation. Once in Keynote, I'll go to the Images panel of the inspector and I will go to Instant Alpha, select the white background, and take it out. I can also reuse just part of this image. For instance, the fishing line. I'm going to duplicate the image and then I'm going to crop by double-clicking on the picture and readjusting the mask, the window, so only part of the image will be seen. Then I can position that on top of the other image. So right here I only have the fishing line showing through of that image, and then I grab it and I put it over top of the other fishing line. So I will duplicate the fishing line multiple times so that the line is a lot longer, because I will have that hook stretching down from the top of the screen all the way to the bottom. Then I can group all those fishing lines and the Bruiser's Backyard piece of text together by going to Arrange and then Group. This will allow me to move all the images and the piece of text as a complete unit. If I ever want to separate the pieces of text to make changes, I can double click within the grouped section and just get the piece of text or the image that I'm trying to focus in on. So here on my example, I want the Bruiser's Backyard words to wiggle like a piece of bait at the bottom of my screen. So I will click on the entire selection of the grouped items, the hook and the piece of text, and I'll double click just on the piece of text, and then I'll be able to rotate just that text, not the hook. And then I will be able to animate back and forth, creating a new slide on the slide panel and rotating the piece of text, again by double clicking and then rotating using the inspector side panel. You can see here how the animation takes place. And now I go back to Google Images to find an image of a fish. In this case, I want to find a fish with the mouth closed and a mouth open. So to do that, I'm going to go to Tools and choose Animate It. This way I have an image of the same fish with multiple stages of having its mouth open. Once I find the fish that works well for my project, I'm going to right click on it and say Save Image As. Save it to my Downloads folder and open it in Preview. I can now see that because this is a GIF file, that I'm able to see each individual picture here and select just the images that I need for my project. I'll use the markup or editing tool in the upper right hand side of my preview window, and then I will go to the Instant Alpha or this magic wand here on the left, and I'm able to get rid of white backgrounds on any image. So now I have the fish with its mouth closed with no background, and now I'm going to look for the fish with the mouth open and take away this white background as well. Again, using my Instant Alpha, I'll get rid of the white background. Once I have the two images that I'm looking for, I will click on one, I'll say Select All in the Edit menu, and then Copy. I'll move over to my Keynote presentation, and I will paste the image into the slide that I want. Once I have the image inside a Keynote, I can make any arrangements that I need to by flipping it horizontally, rotating, or resizing. In this case, I'm going to have the fish going across the bottom of the screen and taking the Bruiser's Backyard bait and getting taken away by the hook. So I'm animating like I previously showed you by duplicating the slides and moving just a little bit each time. And once the fish gets close enough to the bait, he's going to open his mouth. So I will sub out the picture that I got from my GIF with the fish with its mouth open. And I continue to animate as previously shown. And here's what the final product will look like. And even if you wanted to use the GIF animation in its entirety and take away the white background, you can go through Preview frame by frame and using the Instant Alpha, get rid of each white background on each photo, save it, and then drop it onto your Keynote. And I'll do the same technique that I showed you earlier in this video on how to export as a movie, putting 00 self-playing and saving it to my desktop. Drag it into iMovie, switch from cutaway to green screen, and watch my final product.
So I hope you learned something and I got your creative juices flowing. Ready to take your titles to the next level, brother. As always, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, Bruiser out.